You know that feeling when you find a good game and you always want to play it? Wouldn't it be nice to feel the same way about drawing? In this episode of YouTube Art School, I'll show you the 3 steps that you can take to get addicted to drawing. This changed my life and I can't believe I haven't made a video about it yet. So let's fix that now. Let's get to class. Alright, class is in session, pay attention. For so long, I searched for the answer to this question. What makes games so fun and how can I apply that logic to art? Why can't drawing be just as addictive? I've always been jealous of those people, that draw all day and seem like they can never get enough of it. Because I'm not like that naturally. For me, it took work to be able to get there and well, now I have the answers. So what exactly makes a game like Elden Ring or Armored Core so good, in my opinion? And I mentioned those games for a specific reason because they are really hard, to me at least. It almost defies logic how something so hard would be considered fun. But despite hours of frustration and occasional bursts of rage, I still kept going back to them until I beat them. And as I was playing, I realized how similar they were to the pursuit of learning to draw. Like in the same way, drawing can be very frustrating. It takes a long time to see results, and yet some people pursue it for years, for a lifetime in some cases. On the surface, it seems like the same thing almost, but they're not, right? Otherwise, you wouldn't need motivation to draw. You just want to do it all the time. So let's take a look at the first thing that makes games so addictive. Because, believe it or not, this is something we can apply to drawing as well. And the first thing is that they are low risk, high reward. When you fail in a game, the consequences are negligible at most. Maybe you have to restart from a previous save point. Maybe you have to wait for a respawn timer. At worst, you just lose a little bit of time. Not a big deal. It's a small struggle that leads to a predictable reward. With a couple of hours, you can beat the boss, you can beat the level, you can achieve the goal, which is what feels good. It feels good to reach a goal. So then what about drawing? Well, drawing is what I would consider for most, at least in the way that most people do it, high risk, low reward, right? It takes a lot of hours of work to reap the rewards, like aka get good enough to draw what you want to draw. And even then, it's never exactly clear how long it'll take, or if it'll even feel that rewarding. Now, experienced artists will have a much better idea of what that reward actually feels like, since we've done it multiple times. But if you have less experience, that reward might not be obvious at all. So the big question is, how do we make drawing low risk, high reward, like a game is? Well, to explain this, a better way to define the reward would be as a goal that you want to achieve. And the problem in most cases is that the goal will just be way too big and take way too long to reach. Long enough that the reward won't seem that worthwhile. Instead, it would just be easier to jump in a game and get that low risk, high reward feeling. Hey, come back here. So the solution here is to practice in a way that rewards you more often for less work. It all comes down to breaking up your big goals into a bunch of much smaller, more achievable goals. So let's say the goal is to draw your original character exactly how you envision it. Like imagine drawing it and then being completely satisfied with the result. Like, oh, that's good. That's a big goal though. So instead, what you would want to do is break up the drawing a character goal into a bunch of much smaller goals, all contributing to drawing the character, but each individually achievable in much less time. And I actually have a class going over exactly that process. So if you want, you can check out my Learn to Draw Characters in 7 days with the link down in the description below. And you'll have the full breakdown, so there's nothing to think about. It's all there. So it's a bunch of smaller tasks that you can achieve every day and continuously get that good feeling that you get when you achieve something, when you reach a goal. So do keep your big goals, but break them down in a bunch of smaller goals that you can achieve in a few hours or days at most. That's the first step. And this is the exact same approach that I take in my art program that you can learn more about with the link down in the description below. Because along with all the classes, I included a 67-week-long workbook with multiple tasks to complete every week. This way, you never feel lost. All you have to do is go through the steps and reap the rewards, see your skills increase. The program is built with a natural progression from easy to hard, and by the time you're done, I guarantee you'll be able to draw anything your mind can imagine. So with the link below, you can get the program at a massive discount until the end of the month only to celebrate reaching 23,000 registered students. Why don't you join us? What are you waiting for? All right, with my shameless plug over, let's take a look at the second thing that games have, which makes us want to keep trying, to keep going back. They have built-in feedback systems. When you fail at a boss, when you get beat by some monsters, when you fall in a hole, usually you get to understand right away what went wrong, and then you're able to recalibrate and try again. It took me, for example, way too many attempts to beat the bosses in Elden Ring, but every time I failed, the game gave me a little hint as to what went wrong. So I was able to do slightly better every time, see progress, and then that's what kept me going. When you're drawing though, when you feel like something is not working out, when you know something is wrong but you can't really put your finger on it, how are you supposed to recalibrate? How do you try again in a way that has a higher chance of success? When that's not clear, it's way less likely that you're gonna do it again. Just imagine like a game, that you're playing and then all of a sudden you just failed. Game over. Never knowing why. What? Nobody would play that game. That would just feel pointless. Direct feedback is something that I talk about often on the channel because it's just too important not to. And you need that direct feedback at many stages of the drawing. Not only once you're done, but throughout the process. For the sketch, for the cleanup, for the coloring, the shading, etc. Feedback as often as possible. And the question always is, where to get that feedback? Usually the students on my art program get to join our private school Discord. And, the community is usually a great way to get some of that help, especially if you're contributing a lot as well. Definitely give and take, as it should be. But there are many other ways to get feedback. If you have the money, the best way is always going to be to find a mentor, somebody that can just look over your shoulder and point out every mistake that you're making as you're making them. But you could also try different Reddit art channels. And I see a lot of good feedback being thrown around on there, and people seem to genuinely want to try to help. It could be some Facebook art groups maybe, or some smaller Discord channels. Like a lot of semi-popular artists often have their own Discord server. It could even be family at first, if you're just starting. The idea is to seek that feedback and be open to changing. So get that direct feedback. It's essential. And believe it or not, I am a mega introvert. And look at me, teaching art to millions of people. We can all push back on our insecurities and, make progress little by little. If I did it, you can too. And we're at the last step already. The final missing piece. The last thing that makes games so addictive is the feeling of growth. When we level up, assign those new skill points, and then instantly feel stronger. Or when we get captivated by the story and just want to keep going to find out what happens next. Growth is addictive, and games are just really good at milking that. Always making us feel like we're growing, getting stronger, better. And it's just basic human psychology. Feeling like we're improving is what drives us to do almost everything in life, because it makes us feel good. And so once again, how the heck do you apply that to drawing? Well, to make obvious growth, you have to keep testing yourself. That's the secret. Regularly, you should redraw the same thing to keep tabs on your progress. But obviously, like in a game, between levels, you don't just sit back and relax, right? You have to go on quests, beat monsters, solve puzzles, whatever it is. You will have to make some effort to improve the very thing you're trying to redraw. So a concrete example could be like drawing a face in the style of your choice, practicing for a week all the stuff that you struggled with the first time around, and then just drawing it again a week later to see your progress. And if you put in the work, you will definitely see improvement. And that is such an addictive feeling. You can tackle almost anything in art the same way, and the key is always to keep testing yourself. Redoing the same thing at certain intervals to notice the growth, to make it obvious. So obvious growth is the final step to getting addicted to drawing. So do all those things and you might turn out like me and many other artists out there, preferring to draw rather than playing games most of the time because it just feels more fun. It didn't happen overnight for sure. It required some work, but man, that's the best addiction in the world. And that's gonna be it for this week's class. I hope that was helpful. If it was, let me know in the comments. And then one last thing, I do offer my custom brush pack for free. You can find that with the link down in the description below. It's a pack of all my favorite brushes and you get those for free because you've been a good student. Well done. All right, now I feel like drawing, so peace out.